Hello, guys, and welcome back to Storytime with Nana, Lynn, and Glow. I'm Glow, and I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, we are going to be reading Another Treasure, or at least the first chapter. Another Treasure is a part of a series called The Mysteries of Lancaster County, and by Nancy Mehl. Hope you guys enjoy it. Elizabeth Classen stood on the front porch of her old Victorian house that had been in her family for generations. She ran her fingers lightly over the porch railing. She remembered standing out here with her father when she was a child, watching shooting stars streak across the sky. She breathed deeply of the early April air, which bore the scent of rich, tilled earth and newly leafing trees. As the sun peeked over the edge of the Pennsylvania rolling hills and the Amish farmland, it cast a pinkish glow on the Ida countryside. Elizabeth loved Pennsylvania, and she loved her family's home, situated on the outskirts of the village in Birmingham, bird in hand, deep in the heart of Lancaster's Amish country. Moving back 10 years ago, taking care of her mother and running their shop after her father died had been an easy choice. Now, living here without her mother felt odd. Elizabeth kept expecting to see her mother sitting in her favorite chair reading a book or knitting something for someone in the family. Reddy, the class's rooster, suddenly crowed to welcome the dawn. Elizabeth smiled. She loved to hear his morning greeting. The door squeaked open and a voice said, "You're up early." Elizabeth turned to find her sister Mary standing beside her. Mary held out a cup of coffee. Thought you could use this. Thanks, Elizabeth gratefully accepted the steaming cup. Mary came up next to her. It seemed so strange to be standing here again. Ma and Daddy both gone now. As they looked over the horizon, Rachel Fisher, an Amish farmer's wife, and their closest neighbor to the east, passed by in her horse-drawn buggy with her 8-year twin boys, Thomas and Matthew, flanked her on either side. They exchanged a wave. Elizabeth sighed as Rachel's buggy disappeared around the bend in the road. I know, I was just thinking the same thing. I feel a little guilty now, asking you and Martha to give up so much. Mary gave her sister a gentle squeeze. Oh, Lizzie, you didn't disrupt our lives. We both needed a change. I hated working for that grocery store on my feet all day. I enjoy talking to customers, but we've never had time for real conversations. Everything moves so quickly. Taking over the family business, well, it's just perfect. And now maybe I can paint again. Who knows? Perhaps someday we'll even sell my work in our store. Elizabeth chuckled. Your goal is to sell your beautiful pictures in a thrift store? Mary laughed. Hey, selling a painting anywhere would be great. Now, let's get going. We need to be ready when our customers flood in. I'd like to believe they flood in, but at this point, even a trickle would be welcome. I'm not sure why we fought so hard to keep this place and reopen the store. Yes, you are, because it's ours. Because Daddy and Mama loved it. Our grandmother started it a long time ago. How could we sell our land, our family homestead? The store. To strangers? This is our heritage. She patted Elizabeth's shoulder. Martha and I came back because we love this place too, sis. We wanted this just as much as you do. Mary turned to go inside, but Elizabeth caught up by her arm. But what about your kids? Won't you and Martha miss them and your grandkids? Her sister her sisters had given up so much more than she had to come home. They both functioned, although neither was married anymore. Mary's husband had left her 5 years ago for a younger woman, and Martha's beloved husband Chet died 2 years ago from a heart attack. This They'd both left their families behind in Kansas and Indiana to come to bird in hand and take over the family business. She was so thankful for them. Now now their voices in the house again, noise. It had been quiet since Mama had gone. It had only been a few months since cancer had taken her, but it seemed like an eternity. Mary grabbed her hand. Of course we will, but we can't live our lives through them. It isn't healthy for us. Frankly, I started getting a little clingy. Cheese and crackers, Liz. I don't want to be one of those mothers. Elizabeth smiled at her sister's use of cheese and crackers and the phrase their mother had taught them. Classen, don't swear, she'd say once. Mary repeated about her. She heard her. If you say something when you're upset, why don't you say cheese and crackers? Elizabeth wiped away the tears invoked by Mem. Maybe if I had married or had children, I wouldn't have felt a purposeless before I moved back home after Daddy died. But taking care of Mama made me feel useful, needed, and become staffing change 10 years ago. The timing seemed exactly right to leave her administrative assisting job at the hospital in Harrisburg to take care of Mom and help her keep a store. And you took care of her so well, even keeping the store open for 5 years together with her. Now you're going to make the store thrive again, in Mama's honor, Mary said. Yes, Elizabeth nodded in agreement. It broke her heart to close, and she urged me to reopen it one day. Now we're here. Elizabeth took one more deep breath of the country air and followed Mary into the house. Martha was in the kitchen. She stood over the stove cooking a skillet full of eggs. Oh, Martha, I told you I brought in those muffins for breakfast. You didn't need to do this. Nonsense, Martha huffily. We need a nice hot breakfast to give us energy for the day. Besides, I haven't gone a lot of trouble. It's just bacon and eggs and toast. Oh, and hash browns. Elizabeth laughed then. So we're going to get ready and drive the team of horses through the fields for spring planting like Farmer Lapp says? Martha pushed down a strand of hash browns on from her forehead. Sorry, guys. I do have a little bit of a sore throat today. As Martha pushed back a strand of brown hair from her forehead, Elizabeth marveled over her beauty and only increased in age. She was 55 with bright blue eyes, sets, and a delicate face. Martha lived a disposition, always busy accomplishing some different kind of task, whether big or small. Like their biblical namesake, Martha was a doer, as well as Mary, the youngest of three sisters, was a dreamer, sensitive, adventurous, and sometimes careless. Mary was more likely to leap before she looked, unlike Martha and Elizabeth. Frankly, Elizabeth couldn't stand why any man would leave like leave someone like Mary. Elizabeth had always envied her. She had never been free and easy. As the eldest sister, Elizabeth always felt a responsibility for everyone. Knowing better than to argue with Martha, the two sisters sat down at the rustic wooden table made by their father and ate a quick breakfast. Of course, it was delicious. Martha was an incredible cook. After getting dressed, the sisters tended to the animals. Mary had brought her Dutch hound, Tinkerbell, with her, and Martha had added her cat, Butterscotch. Their mother's border collie added one more dog to miss. Besides domestic animals, their mother also had accumulated 3 pygmy goats, and then there was a hen, and Reddy the rooster. As long as Elizabeth could remember, the Classens had owned chickens. Fresh eggs were a staple in the household. Only 4 eggs this morning, Mary called out as they came to the front door carrying a basket into the kitchen and I fed all the outside animals. Thank you, Mary, but you don't have to do that every morning. We can help. Mary shrugged. We all help in our own ways. I didn't mind feeding the outside animals and getting eggs. In fact, I enjoy it. Besides, Elizabeth feeds the inside animals. It all works out. Well, I still appreciate it. Time's a wasting, Elizabeth called out. Let's get down out to the barn. Elizabeth tried to ignore the nervous butterflies in her stomach as her sisters walked toward the big barn they had converted into a combination of a thrift store and a gift shop. She looked at her sisters. Mary wore jeans, boots, and a nice white blouse. Her blonde hair was tucked behind her ears and fell softly at her shoulders. Mary wore slacks, a light purple sweatshirt, perfect for nappy Sarah, glanced down at her plain brown skirt, her blue blouse, and her nonsense loafers. No nonsense loafers, sorry. Mary liked to tease her that her shoes like once were who were once conservative Mennonites, or to try more modern, but for now she was comfortable the way she was. When they reached mine, Elizabeth unlocked it and pushed the button back. The sign over the entrance read "Second-Hand Blessings." Inside there were a row of tables and shelves. One on one side of the store were a clothing rack. At the back were appliances, and dishes. Other sections include household crafts, decorative tools, jewelry. Many tables in the middle contained miscellaneous items that didn't fit into a big house. There was a section at the front of the store that had shelves filled with handcrafts and gift items, most made by their Amish neighbors and friends. On one table at the chair, Martha had added some baked goods. Banana nut bread, zucchini bread, lemon poppy seed bread, and cranberry loaf were encased in plastic wrap and labeled. It was a new venture after reopening the store. After jumping through some hoops with the health department, the sisters won approval to sell food. Mary had suggested that down the road they had offered a lunch round, maybe set up a couple tables for dining, but Elizabeth wasn't sure that was a good idea. They shelved that plan for now. I didn't like that because I think it's so cute. But, for now, that's not gonna. Elizabeth grabbed 3 aprons and handed one to each sister. Then she slipped into hers. She went over to the table. The things we've gotten for Smucker's estate sale should go quickly, especially the candle holder and the china. Even the bric-a-brac is classy. A lot of those pieces have been cleaned and polished, Elizabeth. Ruth helped me do it. It was so kind of her. Ruth Zook was the wife of the pastor at the Mount Zion Mennonite Church. How's Pastor Zook been? He looked very frail last Sunday. Elizabeth shrugged. Just getting older, as far as I know. Ruth told me recently she wished he could retire, but they just couldn't afford it. Mary, who had been straightening one of those shelves, snapped. I can't believe I forgot all about to tell you. You know Darlin, the waiter over at the Two Bird Cafe? Sure. She told me that she had a rumor that Ruth and Pastor Jim were retiring from the church. Going to Florida. Elizabeth frowned. That doesn't make any sense. Ruth told me that they didn't have money to leave birds in hand just a couple weeks ago or so. What could have happened in such short notice that would have changed everything? And why wouldn't Ruth tell me herself? It's probably just a rumor. I realize it's none of our business. I'm just curious, Elizabeth said. Well, I think we should be glad for them. They've worked very hard. He was Mom and Daddy's pastor, too. I'm glad for them. Elizabeth began to feel a little frustrated. Sometimes her sisters will always have this thing of turning things she said into opinions she didn't actually have. Well, that's just great, Mary says then. What's wrong? Mary, who bent over, found this old photograph on the floor under the smoker's items. I think it was with that frame we sold to Dorothy Mulligan. I can't believe she tossed it on the floor. That's Dorothy for you. She acts the same way at church dinners. Leaves her dirty dishes behind for others to pick up. She also takes the last of something without checking to see if anyone else wants it, Martha grumbled. Elizabeth sighed. You're never going to forgive her for eating the last part of Itsy Baldwin's pie, are you? Oh my goodness, Martha. Are you still mad about that? You were a teenager then. Martha drew herself as straight as a board. She knew I hadn't had any. She had to rush over there and practically knock me over so she could get the last piece. It was incredibly rude. Your cobbler is 100 times better than hers, Elizabeth said with a sigh. You didn't miss anything. Maybe not, but it was the attitude behind it that was irritating to me. Elizabeth shook her head. Now, back to the picture. What did we do with the frame? I can't quite remember. So with a lot of rhinestones, Mary said. Very fancy. Really tacky, Elizabeth said. But she liked it. I guess that's all that matters. Give me that picture. I'll check with Anna Swin and see if there's something she wants. Mary handed Elizabeth the picture. I doubt she wants it, or she would have left it. She wouldn't have left it in the frame. Besides, it's not a great photo. Elizabeth glanced down at it, and it was a really old photo. As Mary said, it wasn't a great shot, but Dorothy wouldn't have thrown it on the floor. Shouldn't have thrown it on her. What is wrong with some people? Sigh. She slid it into her apron. She turned and heard somebody driving up quickly. The brakes squeaked. A second later, a woman rushed in the door. Into the barn, her face ashen, and her eyes wild. Elizabeth immediately recognized it was Anita, the smucker's daughter. She organized the estate sale after her father died. Can we help you, Anita? Anita pointed her fingers at. I need it back. Now. Elizabeth walked. Sorry. Anita pointed at her, a finger at her. I need it back, she said, shakingly. Now. Elizabeth walked toward her. Need what back? She asked. I'm afraid I don't understand. I need it back. Repeated. Everything. All the stuff I brought from my parents' house. I need it back. And that's the end of the chapter. We're going to stop with this book for now. But we're going to do a quick discussion. What do you think, why she needs the stuff back? What's going to happen? What are they going to do about the picture frame that was sold? Find out next time when we come back to another treasure. I hope you guys really enjoyed this book. I know my reading skills aren't great, but I'm doing my best. So I hope that's how you guys feel. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!